This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a welcome to the Secretary of Technology, Karen Jackson. Thank you so much for being with us and helping our viewers around the Commonwealth understand what does the Secretary of Technology do. And certainly that's came as no surprise to you for what the Secretary does, since you'd served as Deputy Secretary.
I have.
In the previous administration, so you knew the role. So what's happening in your secretariat now?
We're having an exciting time. I think if anybody just thinks about their daily life and how technology is infiltrating probably just about every portion of it, whether you're walking around with a Fitbit or some sort of monitor to tell you how many steps you take every day, or your iPhone, or at your home, technology's everywhere. And so for me, and the ability to have this job at this time and to figure out how we can bring technology to state government to better the experience with our citizens and to better just our own work environment is an exciting time. So we're working on initiatives around big data and open data and modeling and simulation and unmanned systems and bring your own device. And so it's a pretty wide open space. I know you've had Sam Nixon on here in the past, and so I know he's very proud of all that VITA is doing in this space. But we're having a lot of fun, and we're really trying to bring just technology to state government and technology to the Commonwealth so that we can grow the economic development portion of what we're doing. And that's obviously a very, very big priority of the governor. And so I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Big data. So what then is big data?
If you think about the amount of data that's around us, the weather data that's collected by the National Weather Service, the data that's collected just by you and I posting photographs online. There's millions of photographs and just minutes of video posted every day. And so when you take all of those times the number of citizens there are posting all that online, there's just tons and tons of information out there. And so big data is just a catch-all phrase. It means a lot to a lot of people, but it's large swaths of data that are available, that are out there. And the interesting part is not only is it the data that we as citizens post about ourselves, but our search engines and others often collect information about us while we're on the web. So I'm sure you, like I have gone on a browser, and up in the right-hand corner there'll be an ad that is for something that I just searched on a couple of days prior.
Yes, right.
And so people are collecting a lot of data about us. The Commonwealth has a lot of data. Most of it we'll keep to ourselves because it does have security implications for citizens and for the operation of government itself. But we can use that data internally to make better decisions and to track some of the programs that we put in place and then to follow the outcomes. And if we need to make tweaks, then we have empirical data that we can go back and back up why we need to make the changes instead of just doing it anecdotally.
I used another two words, open data. Open data. So I might guess what that means, but tell us.
The Commonwealth has actually stood up a site called data.virginia.gov, and that's our official data website for all things data in the Commonwealth. It has a big data portion, which is just what we were talking about, but there's also a section called open data, and that's data that we can put out, we have put out into the public domain that people can take, analyze. You hear a lot about datathons and hackathons. It's de-identified data. There's no citizen data out there, just to be clear. There's no privacy issues with what's there. But we are putting data out there that citizens may find of interest. It could be on vicious dog registries, sex offender registries. There's a lot of them that are already currently available, but we're bringing them all not physically into one house, but we're bringing a lot of the links there so that the public can go and find data that they may be interested in. And if you happen to be an apps developer and you want to develop a cool app around something related to Commonwealth data, there's good data sets out there for you to use that as well.
Excellent. So it's data.virginia.gov.
That's correct.
It's an easy name and website to remember, and people need to check that one out.
Absolutely. We would appreciate it if they would do that. And we're continually adding data sets, so they should visit often.
You know, thinking about the renovation that took place over at the Capitol, which is now almost a decade ago, it was remarkable for those of us who have observed the chambers before that to see all of the technology that was brought into the House and Senate chambers.
It is iPads.
Yes.
The devices being able to accommodate iPhones. It's funny now for me, I've grown up through most of my state career having a BlackBerry. And now they're considered all but obsolete within our workforce because the younger folks have come up on iPhones. So they would rather use a webmail application rather than carry two devices, which there's a constant shifting and a constant evolution. And I think the fact that our legislators can use an iPad or use a computer at their desk in either house is just such a huge evolution from where we've come. And so I'm not sure what's next, but I'm interested to see where we go from here.
Has the use of technology within the Commonwealth, within the government, cut back any, you think, on the amount of paper? And I asked, before you answer, I like your smile and laughter on that, that I heard just this weekend from a friend who'd had a friend down at one of Virginia's fine state universities at an orientation time, in which the parent was asking, now where does my child, son or daughter, print out their papers or whatever? And they said, they don't. The faculty they don't accept papers. You send them to them electronically. Now there are printers around campus. If you need to print something, you could do that. Scan in your card and it recognizes you. But at one of our leading state universities, and it may be happening in most of them, I don't know, but the professors have gotten to the point where they take the papers electronically rather than in print.
I think it's happening everywhere. I think to say unilaterally that everybody has reduced their paper usage by X% is probably a little bold because it's a personal, some people still like to print out emails and keep them. And so I think that's a comfort level that some people just haven't crossed into being able to just keep everything electronically. For us at the state, we're trying to do more and more processing of citizen data applications. Take DMV, for example. There's so many services online. VDOT's just announced a lot of data that's come online so that citizens can interact with them electronically. So intuitively, I'm going to say we reduced a lot of paper, but I think, as I said, it's a personal choice, and I think we're going to move farther and farther down that path as time goes on. I know we're doing a lot more in the governor's office with SharePoint and actually being able to store documents electronically rather than having to carry around a lot of paper. And so I'm convinced that that's going on in a lot of different arenas. We're very careful. We have document management procedures, as do the agencies, about everything that has to stay in-house. So we're very, very careful on the privacy side of the house. But I think the electronic storage piece is really just, we've done very well with it, but I still think there's more we can do.
So what are the biggest challenges that you're facing in the Secretariat these days?
Probably cybersecurity is one of the biggest. That is an area that it affects everybody. Whether you talk about different credit card numbers being stolen at major retailers, or you talk about things that go on in more heinous attacks that we've heard about lately, that's something that is going to be an ongoing concern for not only the Commonwealth but the nation's security. And so not only trying to secure our networks, the ones that VITA runs and oversees, but really just trying to make sure that the Commonwealth is secure as it can possibly be. We're collaborating on a cyber commission with the Secretaries of Education, Health and Human Resources, Public Safety, Veterans and Defense Affairs, because Virginia has a lot of assets in the cybersecurity space with the universities and with the military and with the companies that are here. But it's not just an economic development piece, it's also an internal security piece. So the Cyber Commission was spun up a few months ago. We had our first meeting 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be looking at how we make sure that Virginia is as secure as it can be, but also how can we capitalize on all the assets that we have to bring more economic development related to cybersecurity to the Commonwealth. So I think that for me is going to be the biggest challenge that we face. There are others that are close second, but probably that one, because of the nature of what can happen and the damage that can be done through a cyber attack, that's probably the one that keeps me up most at night.
I think when we've had Sam Nixon on before, the head of VITA, that he has referenced at times that there are all kinds of small, I don't know if you call them attacks, but attempts that are made at times to breach and to get in. They've always been able to turn them back or stop them.
There are, and people view cyber very differently. We have a lot of spam email attempts that get blocked by the firewall on a daily basis.
Right.
Then there's other different types of attacks. People attach files that have malware and other things in them that we turn back. And so people are always trying to see what they can find, and especially if there's a big event going on like an election or other activities, you see patterns that'll trend where people are doing a little bit more activity than they normally would. So we have gotten the ability, and we're very, very close with other agencies about sharing data and making sure that we're as up to date and ahead of the curve as we can be. But VITA's done a great job. We actually have a Chief Information Security Officer, and his day-to-day job is to get up worrying about things like this and
right.
trying to fend them off. So we feel very comfortable that we've done a good job, but we've also assembled the brightest minds that we possibly could with this commission, because we want the brightest minds helping us move forward so that we don't wait until we're playing offense instead of defense.
Now, you mentioned elections, so that causes me to bring up another subject, because not just people of my generation, but even younger people at times have expressed concern about voting machines and just how secure are they, what could be manipulated, what could be changed. So is that in the larger picture of the cybersecurity and technology, or the Board of Elections, and are they getting involved with you all too?
Cybersecurity is every agency's, I'm going to say, biggest opportunity and worst nightmare. We have to do diligence with all of our in-scope agencies. We have 89 in-scope agencies that VITA works with on a daily basis.
In-scope, what's?
That means they participate in our centralized platform that is out in the outsourcing contract with Northrop Grumman.
Right.
And so we have 89 agencies that our Chief Information Security Officer and CIO, Sam, work with on a daily basis to make sure that they have the most secure networks that they can possibly have. So elections, even tax return submission, even the smallest things can fall prey to these attacks if you're not careful. And so we're working with all of those agencies to make sure that we're in sync and to make sure that the networks are not providing any holes that potentially somebody could get through.
So how did you get involved in this technology business? I mean, certainly you're of the generation that has, but how did this become sort of, seems like your passion and your expertise?
That's an interesting question. I have an MBA by training from William and Mary. I have an IT undergraduate background. Although I didn't graduate with an IT degree, I spent a lot of time in the math and science department. And I joined the Center for Innovative Technology in the mid-90s and just discovered that I had a passion for the policy side of the house as well as the technology side of the house. And, you know, sometimes serendipity and good fortune just leads you where you end up. And
Right.
so I've been an appointee since '06 and have just been very, very fortunate, and I'm very honored that, you know, Governor McAuliffe decided to give me the shot at secretary this time.
You know, people in Northern Virginia, I feel sure, certainly technology people know about the Center for Innovative Technology. There may be people watching the show that are saying, now what is that? Although it's been around for some time, so.
It has. It's one of my two agencies, VITA being the other. So CIT is based in Northern Virginia, as you said. If you've ever flown into Dulles Airport and seen something that looks like an upside-down pyramid, that's where CIT is located. And it's really about trying to move forward economic development around technology. So they have the Mach 37 Cyber Accelerator, which is really working hard to generate grassroots, homegrown cybersecurity companies. They also manage the Commonwealth Research and Commercialization Fund that provides seed funding for some transformational research for our universities. They also house the broadband program. So for the folks not from Northern Virginia, they may know of CIT but not know of CIT by name, but they have the broadband program that's been around probably now going on almost 20 years that does all the mapping and that sort of thing. So they're also working now a little bit in big data in a partnership with the education community doing the Virginia Longitudinal Data System. And so they really are about trying to move the technology ball forward. And I would say probably if they're not on the very cutting edge or maybe bleeding edge, they very much are on the cutting edge. And so we look to them a lot to help us see where the trends are going and to be in the area of homegrown technology development for the Commonwealth.
Now, new words that have taken on new meanings, the cloud. Hear that much more now than one used to. And broadband being a word that's been around for a long time, satellites. As you think about parts of the Commonwealth and that you're very familiar with that maybe are the most challenged to get high-speed internet connection, what do you see taking place there? I mean, what's going to be their route to do that? Is it satellite? Is it getting broadband into other areas? Or if you could wave the magic wand and fix it so that rural areas, whether they're in Southwest Virginia in particular, that you and I are both aware of, or whether they're South Side or some other place where they're not yet connected as well in homes,
Right.
maybe in the main street in businesses. What needs to happen?
That's, as you know, I've been spending a lot of time on broadband through the years, and we're now down to the last of the last mile. So it's the least densely populated. It's the most difficult to reach areas.
The most expensive.
And the most expensive to reach. And so we have actually hosted 2 meetings. The governor was with the broadband providers last week. It's the first time that the governor has hosted them. And we had a conversation around, so what do we do? And we're looking creatively, obviously, with the revenue projections being where they are. We're not just concentrating on how much money do we have to throw at this to fix it, although that's likely to be a piece of it. Really about what can we do through partnering with agencies like VDOT and the Department of General Services that has domain over towers that the state owns. And so we've been working with the providers to come up with a prioritized list of things that we can do to help them. Why does that matter? Because the more we can do, we can reduce the capital expenditures that it takes for them to go into an area. And so we're looking at this from, we're going to change all the things that we can change, and then at some point it will likely be up to the localities, the legislature, the governor, as to whether or not they want to make investments in actual infrastructure to build out these last areas. You mentioned satellite. Satellite's a viable option. The problem that we have is not having internet comes in two flavors. One, it comes as I can't physically get the service. Number two is I can't afford it. And so we're really dealing with a dual-edged problem. And it's very, very difficult sometimes to determine which camp somebody falls in, whether it's a fact that they can't afford or whether it's a fact that they can just not access. So for students, for returning vets who want to do healthcare monitoring at home, we've got to sort this out. And so the governor has committed a lot of time and has been very staunch in reminding me that by the time he leaves office, he wants everybody to have ubiquitous coverage. So we're going to work on all fronts and see what we can do. But it's going to take partnerships both with the private sector as well as legislators and local governments and everybody working together if we're actually going to solve it.
Probably if you go back a decade or more ago, then the Tobacco Commission money has been helpful in many different localities in getting broadband.
That's been probably, it's not probably, it is the single largest investment that's been made in broadband infrastructure in the Commonwealth has been made through the Tobacco Commission over the past decade. The fact that they have an open access backbone running through Southside and a lot of fiber running through Southwest, when you compare what they have with other places up in the valley, Eastern Shore is coming along now, but for a long time they were without a great deal of service. The access to those Tobacco Commission funds meant the difference between some of those localities being able to get large economic development deals or not. And so for Southside and Southwest, the Commission has been a real asset in the broadband infrastructure arena. Not sure where we would have gotten that kind of capital otherwise to build out. So we just need to figure out how to spread some of, not necessarily the capital, but we need to spread those models across the state to make sure we can get the last mile done.
And as folks in the Commonwealth hopefully all know, that money goes in areas of tobacco growing footprint.
Right.
So that's why Shenandoah Valley is really not really eligible and probably is one of the areas of biggest challenges right now.
It is. Actually, it's always unique for me when I talk to people from Western Loudoun. They have a broadband problem as well. Goochland, Culpeper. So it's a statewide problem. And it is anywhere that there's not a large concentration of people or industry to anchor the expenditures for the providers. And so it's on us to try to help them create the business models they need to be able to go into the areas. But the Commission has absolutely done a yeoman's job in getting Southside and Southwest wired.
Now, in searching on the internet, I found something that I wasn't aware of, and it says that you serve as the Virginia lead for the Mid-Atlantic Aviation Partnership.
I do.
Yes, and maybe the rest of our viewers know that, but I didn't. So what is this part of your responsibility?
Outside of the IT space, I also have modeling and simulation and unmanned aerial systems, which happens to be where the Mid-Atlantic Aviation Partnership falls. Almost 2 years ago, Virginia was aware of and decided to pursue in partnership with New Jersey and Maryland designation by the FAA as a unmanned systems test site. Virginia currently has about the 8th highest concentration of UAS-related companies in the nation. So we had a lot of assets here. Obviously, we have NASA Wallops, we have Fort Pickett, we have great areas, Dahlgren, where a lot of this research was being done anyway. And so we banded together, competed. Virginia Tech was in the lead on that project. And we were, as of December, I think it was December 30th, it was right at the end of 2013, we were awarded one of the 6 test site designations nationally. And so it's a very big deal. It took us almost 2 years of proposal writing and expertise to get that in, and we were originally up against 50 other locations. They boiled it to 25 and then selected 6. So we're very, very pleased to have that. It's not just about flight. You have unmanned systems that are underwater, on water. Some people have heard about the Google car that are unmanned cars or driverless cars. And so the technologies are similar, sensors, composites, a lot of things that Virginia is very, very good at, including aeronautics and aviation
Yeah.
all get wound up into this space. So we're looking at it as a huge economic development opportunity for the
We'll have to
Commonwealth.
have you back to talk about that one more as it progresses. I
We'd
think
love to
our
do that.
time is out, but thank you very much, Secretary Jackson.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamit.doitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.